When we say the phrase experiential learning, what experiences come to mind?
I think one for me was last year, Agency 1693. I don't know if you guys heard of it. It was on campus. It was like a student-led marketing agency. And yeah, that was my first like on-campus like work experience really. And it was really fun. Like essentially everything that I did like outside of like school when it comes to like marketing was now done in school with other students. So it was nice to finally meet like other students that were doing the same things that I was doing and working in teams and everything. So it was a good experience.
Just out of curiosity, and this can be kind of for anyone, what differentiates for you between something that is truly an experiential learning experience and something that's just like, I don't know, like I feel like there's some classes you get into where you just like have to memorize content. Like, what makes something an experience as opposed to just sitting there and mindlessly absorbing? Like, what is, like, the element that, like, turns it into something that's an experience for you?
I think the class... Sorry, did you want to say something?
No.
I think the class kind of has to, give you the opportunity to make something for yourself or plan something for yourself or be able to take on, like, a certain role within like a group project or something like that. Yeah, I don't know if I have more words on that, but I think that you really need to have the flexibility to be able to take on a specific role rather than just like, hey, absorb all this content and then spit it back out at me.
So essentially, you doing something is what makes an experience.
Yeah.
Kind of. Like, if you just sit there and you don't have to take that knowledge anywhere, it's not an experience. The act of doing is a large part of experiential learning.
I think a large part of experiential learning, or maybe, less so an element of experiential learning, but more so what it looks like, is maybe the people doing it need to look a little silly while they're doing it. And what I mean by that is, well, this podcast is theoretically experiential learning, and I don't know about you guys, but with these headphones and the mics, I feel a little silly or out of place. And it's sort of like a fish out of water thing. And I think that actually is an indication that it's working, that you're coming into a new role. I think another example of that would be, I don't know what class this is for or what project it is, but last few days I've seen people out on the Cremdell like pond area, like in a kayak, like collecting measurements. And, I'm sure that's very important research, but it just looks interesting to be doing that in such a public area. And I like that. And I think that is what experiential learning needs to look like. It needs to look kind of out of place at times.
Yeah, it's like almost needs to be an experiment. Like, there could be a fail factor. I think it's something we don't think about, but, when we're trying something, when we're taking knowledge, and as Jess was saying, as we're doing something with it, there could be a chance that what we do doesn't actually pan out or become productive, but that's okay, is what I'm gathering from you. Like, it's okay that maybe we look silly or we fail while doing it.
And then I'll also just add, like, onto what's already said, it's just hands-on learning. And like you said, like, just jumping into something new, like how they just, like, jumped us into doing podcasts when we first got here to STLI. So it's just that hands-on experience and trying things that you aren't used to. One thing that I really do like is within my classes when the teachers, like, make us do a project that I haven't done before, or, like, randomize our groups. Now you have to talk to people you don't know. That kind of, like, that engages me more rather than, like, just having a class where we don't do projects or anything and it's literally just notes. So, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, like, kind of riffing that, I feel like I haven't had a lot of jobs or, like, positions that I would classify as, like, an internship, but I still think that they are good, like, work experience, because like I am learning these skills, I am being put in, you know, just kind of like thrown into it, and I'm learning how to like deal with and manage all these things that like I have no idea what I'm doing. So I feel like being able to kind of manage other people and figure out those skills for myself is still work experience, but in a different way.
Yeah, no, I think, those soft skills are so important because, and maybe this is like not a common misconception, but I feel like as an undergraduate student, like up until you leave college, your entire life has been kind of planned out for you. Like you've had structure, you've been put into this, into that, into that, and you just like check off the boxes, go through the motions. But something that I don't think was talked about, how when you get into the quote unquote real world, whatever that means for everyone, there is a lot less structure. And there's a lot more experimentation and a lot more figuring it out. And there's a lot less rules. It kind of is just being thrown into situations where you're like, I don't know if I was trained for this, but I have to learn on the go. And so I think that there is some real value in having, even if it's not an internship or an externship, some kind of work experience where you are kind of put in the deep end. It can be very scary, but I do think that just in life, like nothing is planned out, nothing is as rigid as we think, and there's some serious value in being able to navigate that and being able to take risk and being able to fail and being able to take something away from any experience that you have. All experiences are learning experiences.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I was just thinking of this job I was working at over the past couple of years, and like when I got there, like I didn't really know a whole lot about how like that kind of job would work, and they were just kind of gave me like a brief training, and they were like, okay, go. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then you just kind of like learn, and you learn from your coworkers or your boss or the people that are surrounding you. And then, as I'm like moving up into different positions, they're still just throwing me into it, and I'm just kind of figuring it out. And I feel like that is also a very important skill, because like there are going to be jobs that like they're so specific that no one's ever trained for that kind of job, but you're going to do it because you know how to adjust.
Yeah, and kind of to steer into the like realm of internships and externships, I know that's like one of the university's big priorities, especially as we're moving to Vision 2026. That all students will have access to an internship or an externship, hopefully paid too, because I think that's something that maybe is worth talking about. Just, I know in my experience, it can be very difficult for students to take internships or externships if they aren't paid, as opposed to working a part-time job or something to make money, whether that be for schooling, to afford textbooks, just to kind of keep things going. And so, kind of looking at this Vision 2026, are you as like an undergraduate student interested in doing an internship or externship? And for you, what would like draw you in? Does that make any sense as like a question? Like what would make you say, yes, I'm going to take an internship over going home over the summer and working the job that I usually work?
I think for me, what would make me like more entitled to do an internship is just getting that experience. Like I know like from just doing my own research, when it comes to jobs, they all like say you need this amount of experience, and if you don't take those internships while you're in undergrad, when you do graduate and you try to go for that job, now you're sitting there with no experience. So I think for me, like I had to learn like I need to be doing those internships and stuff now, instead of just like enjoying my breaks, because then I'm setting myself up for failure when I do graduate.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, that's a really difficult decision to make, just because like some people it's gonna be like a really hard decision based off of like, I need money to go through this next school year, or I need money to be able to move out after I complete college. And so like you can maybe do both, but like that's going to be really taxing on a person. And it's going to be hard to choose between like a job that feels comfortable and is secure financial wise, but and like a job that maybe is more you're more passionate about because that's like
I think also something that, is helpful that we didn't talk about that is implicit, anyway, is having guidance. I think sometimes it's valuable just to be thrown into something, but a lot of times with these student orgs, you have people you look up to that you can kind of learn from and you see how they're doing things. Or even like in internships and externships, maybe you have a mentor that you can kind of look to and see how they operate. And so, I think if we're going to sum it all up, what is experiential learning and how do we make that valuable and how do we bring in truly valuable experiences to this university? I think we pull in things that have longevity, that we can take our passions and that we can run with for an extended amount of time, that we can really invest in. We have mentors and people that we can look up to who are guiding us along, who let us know that it's okay to fail, it's okay to try things, but, we have this kind of lighthouse that we're looking to of, this is what I'm trying to get to. And thirdly, I think also having resources is extremely important, whether that's financial compensation or credit hours for a course. Having some sort of resources so that we're able to do what we want to the best of our ability is vital. And I do want to shout out our campus does have some great resources. I think of the Media Center. For me personally, that really grew me as an artist, being able to have access to equipment that I would have never had access to. Even being able to work for different departments like STLI, gaining experience with podcasting, interviewing, consulting. Those are things that I wouldn't have had outside of this department. And so I think, kind of to come to a close, what's so important about experiential learning is that it enriches us as individuals and it enriches, our portfolios, and it also enriches our worldview. And so, how can we bring meaningful experiences into the university and into our own lives so that we can in turn invest more into them and put that back out into the world around us?